Troy, if you can hear me, can you confirm that we're live streaming on YouTube?
I just got a notification that we are.
Good.
Hey, Kim, we're missing your American flag. Now we're missing Kim.
Starting?
Wonder if he's changing his background.
He probably is.
There we go.
All right, there he is.
Hi, Greg.
Dalton done.
All right, we are a minute away from beginning city council meeting for tonight. All right, so this is Mayor Gailey, City of Lake Stevens, and we are going to have a city council regular meeting tonight, and it will be via Zoom at 7 p.m. on September 8th, 2020, and I call this meeting to order. And with that, I would ask that you all stand and follow in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Kelly, can we get a roll call of council members?
Ellie, you're muted.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. I think my co-host muted me, maybe. Councilmember Daughtry.
Present.
Councilmember Peter Shagan.
Present.
Councilmember Frederick. Member Frederick. Is he on the line? I don't see him there. Councilmember Dickinson.
Present.
Councilmember Jorstad.
Here.
Councilmember Ewan.
Present.
Councilmember Tatchett.
Present.
We need a motion to excuse.
I'll move to excuse council member
Briggs.
Frederick.
Second.
You know what? He is in the waiting room. He's joining us right now.
Yeah, I knew he was coming.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Then I withdraw my second.
Okay.
And I'll withdraw my motion as well.
Councilmember Frederick, are you with us?
I am.
Great. We just did roll call, so make sure we knew you were here.
Brett, you're muted.
Council President Tagit, can you give us an agenda, please?
Yeah, so we've got agenda before us. We have a couple changes on that. Kelly, did you want to go over those changes real quick?
Yes, I would. Let me just let somebody else into the meeting. Okay, a couple of changes. Everybody can hear me. Number one change on the consent agenda, item C, the August 25th, 2020 council meeting minutes. Page 2 in the report from Councilmember Ewing, I made a typo and stated that November was Suicide Awareness Month when it actually is September. So I want to make that correction. In fact, we're going to be adding a proclamation regarding that here as well. So I'll cover that in a minute. On the resolution to support law enforcement on page 2, where it reads, now therefore be it resolved by the Lake Stevens City Council as follows. It should read this council on behalf of the city of Lake Stevens and not this board. So I want to make that correction. I think that got brought up at last council meeting. We do want to add a proclamation tonight for National Suicide Prevention and Recovery Month. So I'd like to add that to the agenda. The week of the National Suicide Prevention Week is this week, September 6th through the 12th. And the recovery month is September 2020. So I think the mayor's got that proclamation to read if you are all in agreement to adding that. And the third item is right now under discussion. It's the Racing to Equity, the consultants that want to brief the council tonight. And we've actually would like to move that up to guest business so that they don't have to wait through the meeting. And those are my 4 edits.
Great. Is there anyone else who'd like to add anything to the agenda or any changes from the council?
I move that we
Marcus.
accept the agenda with the proposed changes.
Second,
I do, Marcus.
Yep.
Marcus, I did have a motion to take from the table ordinance 1093 regarding the full-time mayor.
that's not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda.
But we can add
Correct.
agenda.
It was tabled from the previous meeting, and my understanding is that we need to take it from the table in order to vote on it.
A motion to table is appropriate. It requires a second and can be passed by a simple majority.
I've got a motion from Councilmember Ewing to add the full-time mayor to the agenda. Do I have anyone who wants to second that motion?
I'll second that.
That motion was seconded. So let's get, I think we'll attack this first thing before we set the agenda. So all in favor of adding this to the agenda for tonight, why don't we just do a roll call on that, Kelly, if you will?
Sure. Councilmember Daughtry,
Aye.
Councilmember Peter Shagan,
Aye.
Councilmember Frederick. You're
Aye.
muted. Aye, okay, yes. Councilmember Dickinson,
No,
Councilmember Jorstad,
No.
Councilmember Ewing,
Yes.
Councilmember Tagit,
Aye.
on the phone on there.
passed 5-2.
So they'll pass 5-2. So I'll add that to agenda. Does anyone want to add or change anything to the agenda before we make a motion to approve the agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Council President, I think we have a motion on the table to approve the agenda.
Yeah, but it was moved to approve the agenda prior to setting.
Correct. You're right.
that. So
So I'll make a move to approve the agenda as set forth, Council President.
can I get a second on that motion?
Second.
That was seconded by Councilmember Daughtry. All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Any-
lost, hang on. I don't know how to get back in there. Wait a minute.
Aye. Mary, you're in.
I can't see anything. I can't see anything.
Kelly, can you please do a roll call for this vote?
Absolutely. Councilmember Daughtry,
Aye.
Councilmember Peter Shagan,
Aye.
Councilmember Frederick,
Aye.
Councilmember Dickinson, can you hear us?
I can hear you. No,
No. Councilmember Jorstad?
Aye.
Aye. Councilmember Ewing?
why did I lose my picture?
Aye.
Councilmember Taggett?
Aye. Mary, while you try to figure that out, can we get you to mute because you keep talking through the meeting? Great, Mary, you have an agenda. Brett, you're on mute.
All right, so thank you, President. Let's move on to guest business, and we have Carrie, I'm gonna butcher it, Quas from the Snohomish Conservation District.
Thanks,
You're
Mayor Bailey. It's Kari Kwas, and I'll just share my screen, and I have a brief presentation to go over today. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes. Kari, are you able to share?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I don't know if you have to make me a co-host for just a moment.
Yep, I'm gonna do that right now.
Thank you.
Go ahead, you should be good.
Awesome. Okay, so this one. You should be seeing me with shorter hair.
We see.
All right, pre-COVID. Okay, so my name again is Kari Kwas with the Snohomish Conservation District. Our office is actually based in Lake Stevens.
Can you hear me? This is Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Hey, I know I was on mute. Are you by chance watching Lake Stevens?
Hey, Carrie, you're in our conversation.
I muted him. Okay, so typically our office, well, we are based in Lake Stevens. I'm working from home in Everett while COVID is on, but the I Love Lake program continues. So I'm the community engagement program project manager, and I'm the I Love Lake program lead. And I work with both Eric Durpus and then John Stevens, who I know is on here too. A little bit about the Snohomish Conservation District. We are one of 45 across the state. We're a non-regulatory agency. We were started in the Dust Bowl, and around here we represent Snohomish County and Camano Island, and we were started in 1941. So for participants in the city of Lake Stevens, where you were established later, there's a relationship generally with the city. So your residents pay in a rate to the district, and then we provide services to them from technical assistance, cost share, a lot of education for youth and for adults and all kinds of things like that. But the I Love Lake program started in about 2014. It is a partnership between the city of Lake Stevens and Snohomish Conservation District. So thank you for partnering with us. And really it's because people are surrounding that big, beautiful lake you have. So in our program, we have grown over the years, and we have the Cascade Award, which I'll be giving away tonight. Living with beavers, we know you have beavers in Lake Stevens, and they cause water problems sometimes. So we have someone on staff who specializes in dealing with that and providing help. Stormwater solutions, rain barrels, rain gardens, natural yard care, so planting native plants and doing things like that. And then this fall, we'll be going into detention ponds, of which you have a lot across the city. So all of those homeowners associations may or may not know that they are responsible for maintaining them. So we would come in as one of the helpful entities to help John do that part of his job. We also do youth education, and so we have classes in your schools. So this is our third annual Cascade Award, which I'm excited to share. The first one we were able to be at Stitch Lake, which was just lovely and had a nice campfire and cider press. Last year for 2019, we were at the North Cascades Joe Rance Boathouse and was able to participate in their barbecue. And this year, woohoo, we get to be at your city council meeting virtually. COVID, of course, is the reason for that, and I am really happy to actually have the time to present to you. So in 2018, we had Carl Slemchinsky. He's a WSU Master Gardener and has a lovely property on the west side of the lake. Mary Fox was our runner-up. And thanks for Sam for being there as well to speak. Sam Lowe, County Council member. Last year it was Joni Pryor. She lives on the north part of the city and has about every BMP, so best practice you could possibly imagine on her property. It was funny though, I thought about it. She was virtual for the award ceremony. She had her neighbor come and collect her award. So we got to tour her property, but then she wasn't there for the award ceremony. This year we have two finalists. We have Leah Everett and we have Jackie Longley. So who will be the one? I wanted to quickly go over highlights of their gardens. So we have Leah Everett's property. She had a combination of everything you can imagine, from native plants and shrubs and trees and gardening and hugel culture and a rain barrel. It goes on and on. There's some more pictures of her garden space and a nice pumpkin growing. She also has a compost bin. These are all lake-friendly practices, and this is what we're trying to get across, is that people are managing on where they live, their little property, good things for the environment, for pollinators, wildlife, for us. Keeping stormwater off the streets is great. We don't want that pollution running down to the lake. Growing fruit for yourself is awesome. This is a pollinator garden she started this year. And there is Leah. So she's officially a finalist, and this is how we award that. This award is presented to Leah Everett for her efforts in maintaining a beautiful, sustainable, and lake-friendly landscape, including a pollinator garden, a food garden, fruit trees, gorgeous roses and dahlias, hugel culture, as well as a variety of native plants, shrubs, and trees, plus a dry river rock bed and a rain barrel. And I learned about the dry river rock bed because it showed up in Jackie Longley's property as well, which apparently was a thing in Lake Stevens at some point. Jackie's property was a bit whimsical. She had bridges across her dry river and some cool art, also native plants. She lives right on Catherine Creek, so very close to the Lake Stevens Public Works office, and put native plants down the hillside. She also had an adorable dog named Pumpkin standing next to a big leaf maple, I believe, right there. Someday that'll be much bigger than him. Also growing grapes, and was going to have chickens and a chicken tractor. And for those who do not know, that means that the chickens actually roam across the ground. They stir it up, they eat bugs, they take care of a lot of stuff and fertilize. So it's a good thing to have. Compost bin, and there is Jackie's with her lawns to lettuce, as we would say. So in taking part of her lawn and growing food instead. So for her finalists, this award is presented to Jackie Longley for her efforts in maintaining a beautiful, sustainable, lake-friendly, and whimsical landscape, which creates and protects habitat along Catherine Creek. Highlights include native plants and trees, raised food beds, future bat house, and the inherited plastic weed cloth that she's trying to remove. So for those that know, please don't put that down. Anything that's permeable is not going to help. You want it to actually filter into the soil. So today, John Stevens, and I'm really happy to work with John. He's a great partner on this project. We met briefly, and so he will be providing all the good, cool I Love Lake materials and the actual physical award, which is a sign that goes on the fence to our award winner. So without further ado, the congratulation goes to Leah Everett. Is she here tonight with us to accept her award? Everybody can clap. Leah is a great partner as well. She used to work for the city of Lake Stevens and help with the stormwater. So she knew about this program. And honestly, from the time I first saw her garden to when I got to go again this year, she has grown and changed it too. So we're very proud of her again. And thank you for your partnership as well on this. And if she's here, I'd love to hear her speak, but I don't know. Any questions about the I Love program before I pass it back to Kelly? Brett.
So I think we have Leah, right?
Yep, you got me.
All right, perfect.
Well, thank you very much. It's a big honor. I'm really excited that I was able to able to participate this year, and yeah, for all the hard work that Carrie and John have put into the program. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Leah. I can look forward to continuing to see your garden grow. And thanks very much for having me.
Hey, Carrie, thanks for being here. What a great program. Just doing great things for Lake, and that's really appreciated. And Leah just astonishes me with all her skills that she pops up on. I didn't know the gardening thing was a thing for her. So great job. Leah's a great asset to our city. All right, perfect. I think we're moving discussion item J up to guest business. So Anya, go ahead.
Good evening, Council. So per resolution 20-15 condemning racism, the mayor and council committed to providing themselves and department heads equity inclusion training. Racing to Equity is a consulting firm that we've selected, and they will be conducting training for us at the mini retreat and continuing through the fall and through the winter. It was outlined in the staff report submitted tonight. And so without further ado, I'd just like to introduce Tammy and Bernardo, who are here tonight, to introduce themselves and get the work going on equity and inclusion and provide an intro so we don't have any time to waste during the mini retreat. Tammy and
Thank
Bernardo.
you, council members.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Bernardo Ruiz, and I am the Chief Equity Officer and Principal Consultant for the Racing to Equity Consulting Group. And it is with great pleasure and honor that we're here before you to have a short conversation on what you would like to accomplish and manifest as a result of our partnership and work to advance racial equity and social justice at the city of Lake Stevens. And before we start, I want to give you accolades for passing the resolution condemning racism. That's the first step in order for us to recognize that harm has been done through decades of either advertent or inadvertent oppression, marginalization, and discrimination. And this is a great first step for us to advance the work in a powerful way. I will introduce myself a little bit deeper, and then Tammy, and then we have a question for you in terms of the work. I had the opportunity to serve in Seattle Public Schools for 21 years. 11 of those years, I was a senior level executive director serving to the discretion of the superintendent, and I led 5 departments: racial equity, school family partnerships, Native American education, the Office of Civil Rights, and the African American Male Achievement Project. And during that tenure, we were the 2nd district in the nation who passed the racial equity policy to ensure that we honor, value, and dignify every single one of the students that comes into our care. And they provide a high quality and free public education as it is their constitutional right. About 5 years ago, after doing a lot of work nationally with Johns Hopkins University and the US Department of Education, I had the opportunity to partner with one of our colleagues at Seattle Public Schools, Anita Garcia Morales, and we started the Racing to Equity Consulting Group. Since then, we have served cities, municipalities, organizations, institutions, school districts, higher learning, universities to advance racial equity in a meaningful, intentional, strategic, and long-lasting manner. We also have had the opportunity to do work internationally in Canada, Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Colombia. And we are very glad that you chose us as your consulting group. And I also had a great opportunity working with the city of Seattle. I was appointed by the mayor about 10 years ago to serve in the Race and Social Justice Roundtable, which was the group that supported the city of Seattle's creation of the Office of Civil Rights and their work on advancing racial equity and social justice. And I was also part of the Gender Pay Equity Task Force in Seattle that we served for 2 years, and we identify ways in which we can really honor, value, and dignify the work that our employees who identify as females receive in terms of pay because of the work they do. Tammy?
Yeah, thank you, Bernardo. Good evening, everyone, and it's good to see a few familiar faces and a couple of familiar names. My name is Tammy Farber. I am the lead associate with the Racing to Equity Consulting Group. I've been a resident now of Snohomish County for about 7.5 years, hailing from the beautiful state of New York. So I am East Coast all the way in many respects, but this is now my home. It is where I'm raising my beautiful 16-month-old and have really come to see us as my home. I feel that Lake Stevens is sort of my sister city. I live in Arlington, yet a great deal. I support your economy, most of my shopping, my dry cleaners. In fact, yesterday I bought 3 new chickens from a resident in Lake Stevens. So it really does feel like I'm getting to be in service with my community. My background, I'm a social worker by background. I started in, similar to Bernardo, my career actually started in education, in early childhood development, and working with children with special needs, eventually morphed into youth development and education. And now I say I did the full life cycle approach for the past, I would say, decade and a half, primarily working with adults and systems. Over a decade and a half of that time was in international work. So I spent many years working for the UN with UNICEF. So really bring kind of that sort of global perspective and global mindedness to how I engage in this work. What brought me to Snohomish County, and some folks originally know me, I was one of the vice presidents for the YMCA's of Snohomish County, supporting our equity and social justice efforts, as well as on numerous advisory boards and councils supporting broader work throughout Snohomish County, serving from the county exec to some of the local cities, municipalities, as well as school districts and other nonprofits in effectively engaging in diversity, equity, inclusion, racial equity, social justice work. After 6 years, I spent 1.5 years supporting sort of Leadership Snohomish County beginning to build its foundation of being seen as a lead organization within the community to support leaders in building their knowledge base and capacities to effectively lead this work. Through that, developed a partnership with Bernardo and Anita Garcia Morales, began engaging in more projects together. In fact, we just completed a project, many of you know, resident Carrie Matau of Lake Stevens, who's also the CEO for Community Foundation. We did an extensive couple years of work with them. And at that point, we began to explore us coming together in partnership, and then certainly with the ongoing horrifying mass murdering of Black bodies we're seeing and some of the uprising, there also was a real surgence across sectors for organizations and institutions and government entities really feeling the need to really build internal capacity, both in greater understanding, but also what does this mean in terms of for our policies, for our practices, for our procedures, for how we operate and function and do business. What does this mean for our culture? And then thinking about the impact that that has on our respective communities. And so moving full time with Racing to Equity, both a privilege and a gift, but also very much divinely timed in terms of a real growing need in our communities. So we are thrilled to be here with all of you. And again, want to thank the mayor and all the city council members and everyone else who is here tonight for this partnership. And this was really just an opportunity for an introduction, because when we work with groups, we'll be anywhere from a half day, full day, multiple days together. We know that our time is really limited. And so we thought if we could just do an initial meet and greet, touch base, get some input from all of you, that when we move into the workshops, we'll be able to dive right in. So great to see all you and Bernardo. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. So if you could just.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
There you go, Bernardo. I think Kelly, was muting.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I think you can go. Yeah.
So we just wanted you to center on the task in terms of us building a relationship on what you want to manifest as a result of your work to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion, social justice at the city of Lake Stevens. The work that we do is very specifically designed to meet your needs. And when we have these meet and greets, we always ask our clients and partners, what is it that you want to manifest in your city and the world as a result of you focusing on advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion? And if you, I don't know, Kelly, how you would like us to do this. We usually let people unmute themselves and let us know what they think. I don't know if you want to go in order.
Mayor, I'll turn this over to you.
Does any city council members have any input on this?
I'm
Angie,
here.
David, are you up?
Go ahead, Angie.
I defer to Angie.
Thanks. Great question. It's, it's a lot to think about in a short period of time. I think that what I'm most looking forward to is an opportunity for all of us to kind of level the playing field, for all of us to have a foundational understanding of equity and inclusion. We talk a lot about one community around the lake. I would really love for our community to feel as though they are truly one community around the lake. I would love for us to be a part of helping to make that happen.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sean.
I'll echo everything Angie just said and just add that in that goal, it might be helpful if we could at least touch on some of the restorative practices that exist and how we might be able to work together to resolve some of those issues that may come up in the workshop.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I also feel that having this opportunity of discussion and mind changing possibly experiences together and really putting it on the table is very important. I think understanding equity and understanding privilege are things that we carry with us. And I know I did for many years before I became aware of what I was missing and how I can do a better job of being welcoming and understanding how it is for a person who is not a person of privilege and does not get that same response. And life is very different for some folks because of that. So I think if we're aware of it, at least it'll help us to do a better job as council members to represent our entire community.
Thank you.
Hey, Bernardo, I think for me, a manifestation I'd like to see, I'm a team guy. So anytime that we can make the team stronger by including everybody, that's important for me. And if we can gather those tools from what y'all have to teach us, then that's a win for me.
Great, thank you. We really focus on relationship building and collaborative work to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in a cohesive manner that fosters trust and collaboration. So absolutely.
Okay, do we have any other input?
For me, I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to see what you guys bring forward and, putting some additional information out there for the whole council, collaboratively working together to, like Angie said, make one great community around the lake and make sure that I just have a better understanding and awareness of that around me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know that I can add anything to what's been said. Very thoughtful comments, and look forward to this experience and opportunity.
Thank you.
I have no additional comments either.
Thank you.
Welcome to Lake Stevens.
Yeah, thank you for choosing us. We're very excited about this partnership. We believe that our collaborative work will help you enhance your awareness to honor, value, and dignify every resident in your beautiful city. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Anya, thank you for coordinating with us. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, Bernardo and Tammy. And we're going to move on to council business. President Tadgett.
Great. I had just a meeting today concerning sewer items. Nothing that much on the agenda for me as of late. Thanks. How about Council Member Ewing?
I just want to compliment the health district and the work that they're doing from the administrator, Dr. Spitters, and a couple really Councilmember Mead and Lowe really had some impactful additions to today's meeting. So I just want to recognize them for their efforts and just the good work that's going on there with the health district and addressing COVID.
Great, thank you, council member. How about council member Mary Dickinson?
Yes, the workshop that I attended last week for the police department, and thank you very much for the opportunity to go to that workshop. It has to do with being responsible for your community, but also self-discipline and accountability. That's what it was called. It was great to be in that room with the police who are taking that training and to get a better understanding of what our police department needs help with. And it is my hope that beyond the resolution regarding support of the police, that we can take actions that will strengthen our police department within the community, such as providing counseling to our police. And yeah, thank you, Doug Levy, for suggesting we push for that in the legislature. And also having social workers available to respond to non-criminal complaints that might involve mental health issues rather than criminal activity. And that it was a very much an eye-opener. I'm so grateful that I was there. And the most poignant moment, as I told Chief Dyer, was when they asked the officers to name in one word how they feel about how things are today in this world. And the words they came up with in their one word made me sad, but I said determined, because I'm determined that we are going to be the exception in Lake Stevens. So, and they were so welcoming to me. So it was time well spent. And that's all I have for council business tonight. Thank you for letting me tell you.
Problem there. Council member Sean Frederick.
Hello. The first bit of council business is really just a thank you to the entire council and the mayor for all of their support over the past few weeks. For those that regularly check into the meeting, I'm obviously back in Washington, so very grateful for all the support that I received from all of you. Often we disagree in these different topics and resolutions and tasks, and it'd be very easy to know to come away with the opinion that we are always in opposition to each other, when in fact we do our best to be very supportive of each other in these very difficult times. So I want to say thank you for that. And to follow up with what Council Member Ewing said, I do want to talk about COVID just a little bit, because the numbers are going in the right direction. And that is really a credit to everyone, not just in this meeting, but all of Lake Stevens and in fact, all of Snohomish County. Please keep doing your part, wearing masks, doing the social distancing. It is working. Our case counts over per 100,000 are going in the right direction. We are significantly away from where the second peak had us about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So as things continue to move in the right direction, that really puts us in a position to really start looking towards the future once the governor eventually lifts the pause on moving the county forward, or moving counties forward. So please keep up all the good work. I know it's difficult. I hate wearing a mask just like everybody else, but I do it for all of you. Everybody keep up the good work.
Thank you. Council member Kim Daughtry.
Thank you, President Tagent. The only thing I have to share is that we are in the Community Transit Board staff are actively seeking a new CEO. As most of you have heard, Heath is retiring. He's been our CEO for the last 6 years and doing an excellent job. We have hired a headhunter that is very well versed in looking for this type of person in the transit organizations and moving forward at a rapid pace, trying to get this taken care of. And that's all I have in a report.
Thank you, Councilmember Daughtry. Councilmember Angie Jorstad.
Thank you, President Tagent. Echoing Councilman Frederick and Councilman Ewing's comments. The Health District Board meeting was quite encouraging this afternoon, and just want to take a moment to thank all of you who are wearing your masks and practicing social distancing. It's because we're doing the hard work that we're moving in the right direction. So thank you all. I also took the opportunity to attend the law enforcement training. And I think the one other thing I would add that Councilwoman Dickinson, in addition to Councilwoman Dickinson's comments, the trainer made a point to talk about how rare it was for the chief of police to extend an invitation to this training to sit alongside law enforcement, to non-law enforcement personnel. And I think that speaks volumes about our leadership in the Lake Stevens Police Department, and the transparency and willingness to allow city staff to become a part of that work and to be a part of those conversations. So I just really want to highlight that decision by Chief Dyer and thank him so much for the opportunity to be able to sit in that room. It was a pretty profound experience. I also just want to say thank you to the dozens and dozens of citizens who have taken the time to send emails and texts to all of our council members and mayor over the last 2 weeks about several different topics that are on tonight's agenda. It warms my heart to hear your words and to see that you're taking the time to let us know how you feel. So thank you all for your voice and for doing the good work. Appreciate it.
Great. Council Member Gary Peterson.
Nothing to report council-wise, but this last weekend's weather, certainly we live in a blessed place, very beautiful, with the exception of the smoke rolling in. But good weekend. Nice to enjoy this area. We live in a great place. Thank you.
Great. So that would conclude council business. Mayor, I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, President. And I inadvertently skipped citizens' comments. We're going to go back to citizens' comments before my mayor's business. So citizens' comments, what we do is we give 3 minutes to any citizen who wishes to have the floor. And how we run this is if I see your hand come up, or if I hear your first name, for some of you that might be on the phone, then when I recognize you, you will have 3 minutes. And we ask that you give your name and your address, and then I will start a clock. So with that, do I have any citizens who wish to speak tonight? Okay, I have Brothers in Healing. Go ahead. There you go.
And hopefully everybody can hear me. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Jeremy Wood, and Brothers in Healing is a 501(c) that I started with a coworker of mine, focused on suicide prevention in our first responders. And one of the things I want to share with you guys is I've been a law enforcement officer, now retired, for 23 years. And something that's dear to my heart, I saw on the agenda here, is the SRO program. I've been a school resource officer for a number of years. I put on training both at the state and national level. And I just want to echo my concerns and hopes that this SRO program can be the leaders in Snohomish County. I think it's essential to have law enforcement working in the schools. And I would like to say that if you're looking to be the leaders in Snohomish County, what's going to be required to do that is not only a fully funded school resource officer program, but one that works with licensed clinical psychologists on your school campuses. That is key and essential. Not necessarily just counselors that have 3 hours of training, but actually licensed clinical psychologists that are skilled in dealing with childhood trauma. You want to make a difference in your community? You do it at a young age, and you hit it hard right off the bat there. And that is what was lacking. I was in the school district for a number of years, and it's really hard to find the funding at times, but it's really essential. And my fear is, with all this defunding going on, our campuses are soft targets. The response times to get an officer on the campus when something exigent happens, it takes too long. I've often found that some of our active shooter drills are not up to par. Some of our school safety drills are not up to par. And I will share this with you. I would say the fire department has done an exceptional job of school safety. We allow them to put in sprinkler systems, fire extinguishers, materials that don't catch on fire. We haven't lost a child in a school fire in over 65 years. So I think the question that you need to ask yourselves is, how can we make these improvements? And it is not by defunding it, it's actually putting more money in and creating what the mayor spoke about is teamwork. Teamwork with licensed clinical psychologists, school staff members, and other counselors there to help the kids. So I didn't put a timer on, so I don't know where I'm at time-wise. I got caught off guard there when I raised my hand. I thought there'd be a lot of hands being raised. So I don't know how much time I have, but I'm happy to speak further more about my personal experiences, both having a child in the Lake Stevens School District that I had to call the police department and gain help with harassment and issue. And I was so pleased with your SRO program and the way that you guys handled yourselves. I never told them I was in law enforcement, never shared that with them. And I was so thrilled how they handled the situation. And so was my daughter. She was a senior at Lake Stevens High School.
Is it Jeremy or Chris?
I'm Jeremy. My coworker who also founded Brothers in Healing with me is Chris Sutherland. He was present at Marysville Pilchuck for a number of years.
Perfect, Jeremy. I appreciate your input tonight. And we're going to move on to anybody else who would like to speak tonight for 3 minutes. I've got Mark Sinners. Go ahead, Mark.
Unmuted.
Nope.
You can hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, great. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My address is 2411 118th Drive Northeast. And I wanted to make a short comment on last week's workshop meeting and the police resolution that was up for discussion, and it's on the agenda tonight. So I wanted to comment prior to that. My main point on this, I'm going to keep it really brief. And my main point is, it's a very long resolution. It's two full pages. I think it should be reduced more to address our local cities and county neighbors or police departments, and not spread to the federal and state level. I'd like to see it, before I say that, I'd like to mention I support our police department. I don't have a problem with our police department, but there is a big problem in this country. And we did link that with our racism condemnation resolution before. And I think that should be linked to this current resolution also. That resolution condemning racism contained or continued a message of justice. And justice was mentioned in this police resolution also. And that's a message that should be continued. And that's what started this whole movement with Black Lives Matter and the police involvement. And I would just ask that you edit your current resolution to relate more to us here in Lake Stevens and our neighboring cities in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And next I have Stephanie's phone. I will unmute you. Oh, you got it already. Okay, Stephanie's iPhone.
Hi, so can you hear me okay?
Gotcha.
Okay, so my name is Stephanie Steele and I live in Lake Stevens. And I've lived in Lake Stevens for the past 3 years, but I am from the Pacific Northwest. And, you know, I have a degree in law and diversity. I've spent a lot of my time in giving to the community to help communities that are not addressing the needs of the minorities. I have worked to try to give more of a voice to the people that are of color within the smaller communities. And so living in Lake Stevens these past few years, I've been able to gained an appreciation for the community that we have. But at the same time, I'm disappointed, and I did email each and every one of these city council members. So I'm sure you guys have heard from me. Additionally, I was able to speak to Angie as well as Kim. So I just want to make it clear that I do support the police, and I'm happy to see that you guys are taking time to become more familiar with the diverse community you're serving. And so it sounds like you guys have connected with some trainings for that, and that's good. However, in my perspective, I think this resolution, the timing of it, the way it was, the language, the way that it was written is, by people of color and people that are trying to grow their own awareness and their own, I guess, awareness and impact. This resolution comes across inflammatory and divisive. There's nothing wrong with saying you support the police, but when you're making it national, number one, that's out of scope. That's not why we hired and we elected our city council members to address that. Number two, if we're really going to have a resolution that really supports our police, then we need to put the money and actions in play. And so I'm part of Lake Stevens Allies, or BIPOC, Lake Stevens Allies group, Allies for BIPOC. And a couple of our members have been meeting with Chief Dreyer and have been, and it's basically like some of the key takeaways are that the police department is having difficulty meeting the growing needs of the community because they don't have the funding for training and they're understaffed. So I would say you're going to write a resolution, fine, make it within scope of the city, number one. Number two, make sure that it's addressing the diverse needs of the community, which I feel like it's not. It's not addressing what are you going to do to help the police be better equipped to serve a diverse community. It really lacks in that area. And number three, fund it. Why are they saying that they don't have enough funding and that they're understaffed compared to other communities? I think that's where our money is best served rather than going to other places like funding a full-time mayor. I just think that's out of scope. It's not urgent. We need to really put our money where our mouth is. And I want to see action from each and every one of these city council members. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Next we have Earl Gray.
Good evening, council and mayor. I want to echo what Stephanie said. I don't know her, but I read the resolution, and let me start by saying I am a big fan of Lake Stevens Police Department, and I'm a big fan of Chief Dyer. I've spoken with him many times, and we are really lucky to have him. I am one that has been around Lake Stevens long enough to know, without going into it, when we had some difficulty. And he has shepherded us through that and steered LSPD in a fantastic direction. I couldn't invent a better police chief than Chief Dyer. That said, this resolution, I think, is divisive in its language. I think it's divisive in its timing. I think, we have to be honest about where we're at right now, and that is we're coming up on an election when there are people marching in the streets about police killing Black people. And whatever side you sit on that, that is where we're at. It's happening. It's in the news. We all see it. And to put this out this way at this time, I think is a bit irresponsible. I think, like Mr. Summers said, if you want to have a resolution that applauds Lake Stevens Police Department, I'm all for it. I'll be the first one to stand in line to say yes. But I think this particular resolution at this particular time is divisive. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Earl. And how about Elizabeth?
Hello, can you hear me?
We got you, Elizabeth. Go ahead.
Awesome. I'm Elizabeth Quello. I live in the city of Lake Stevens. I just want to echo the previous comments. I'm not going to go into a big, long talk about it, but the timing of the police resolution is very poor, especially as more news is coming out about police mistreatment in other parts of the country. So I think pulling it back to bring it local to our particular police department would be the most ideal, since my understanding of the point of the resolution is to create morale for our local police. Making it the scope be statewide or national, it kind of is it won't help our local community feel like they're welcomed. So if the point is to have our city be welcoming to all citizens, bring it back, pull it back a little bit before you decide you want to vote on this resolution tonight. I think you should table it and rewrite the language. I think a lot of citizens would be happier to see something that is more about Lake Stevens than the national conversation that's happening. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth. And I've got David Durant.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Durante from Snow Owl Libraries. I'm the Director of Public Services, and I oversee our facilities, operations, and programming for our 23 locations. I just wanted to say we've been so proud to serve the Lake Stevens community out of the Main Street location for the past 30 years. And I'm looking forward to hearing more discussion tonight and with the community, and in the future with collaboration with the city on how we develop a new viable location for the library. So I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself.
Great, thank you, David. And let's see, I've got Helen.
Hi, my name is Helen. I live in Lake Stevens. First, David, thank you for all of your work. It's very easy. It's been very easy to check out books and pick them up. So I appreciate all the work you've done to make that safe for everyone and still get us access to those resources, which are much needed in a time of being indoors, and even more so now with the weather. I wrote to all of the council members, and as a person of color living in the Lake Stevens community, I do want to raise that there were graffiti messages of hate in our own community, which is very sad to see. Some of you on the call may not know that there was a swastika accompanied by a racial slur against Black people written in a Lake Stevens neighborhood over the weekend, which certainly puts a damper on those festivities. In true Lake Stevens form, the neighborhood came up, they cleaned up the message, they replaced it with messages of love and appreciation for the diversity that we're seeing. And that's the Lake Stevens I want to see. I think that police officers stay safe and community members stay safe when there is trust in between those communities. I read this resolution and I didn't feel trust. I felt that, you know, whether I know this wasn't the council's intention, but I feel that it will be used to embolden white supremacists, and they clearly don't need that. I'm very conscious every day traveling around Lake Stevens that there's an actively recruiting Proud Boys chapter. I think our police have done a really good job keeping us safe, and I trust our police, but I am worried about what this resolution will signal to those who are not aligned with our community as a unified city. And I am concerned about potential violence against me and those who look like me. So I strongly urge the council to reconsider this resolution. And if there's a desire to make meaningful strides towards community policing, which I absolutely agree with, I would again, strongly urge you to establish a community task force with involvement and input from people of color. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And okay, do I have any? I don't see any other hands up. Do we have anybody else out there who would like to participate in citizens' comments tonight?
I would. Yes, I have my hand up too.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm not seeing you on the other Brady Bunch screen. So how about Jessica? Go ahead.
Thank you. So just to echo a little bit from what other community members are saying, the police resolution to me is also pretty low value, and it's a bit tone deaf to obviously the national temperament that's out there right now, but also within our own community. As Helen mentioned earlier, we have a pretty well-known Proud Boy establishment within Lake Stevens. There's still people, holding Confederate flags and throwing Blue Lives Matter flags around, and obviously that is their right to do so, but it is certainly not creating a safe space for people of color. And this resolution is somewhat of an echo of those kinds of viewpoints. And I also am part of the Lake Stevens Allies for BIPOC, and we are wanting to put a task force together. Its purpose would be to bridge the gap between law enforcement as well as city council. There is definitely a voice of the community, particularly the BIPOC community, that is not being heard or being put, having a seat at the table right now, and that needs to change. And having a police resolution, spending time on that when we could be spending time on giving our police force equity training. We could be spending time, yes, giving the city council members equity training, but true equity training that actually is not just a small training, something that actually is involved and is going to make a huge difference for the way that they step forward going forward. This is inflammatory as well. I think I agree with Stephanie in that. It's definitely something that is divisive. It's basically putting the focus on police officers, which I absolutely love our police officers. I think Chief Dyer is fantastic, and I have absolutely nothing against them. And as wanting to put a task force together, it would be an opportunity to actually put heads together that the BIPOC community can actually be listened to and heard, and as well as the regular community, in collaboration with our police. It doesn't need to be like a one way or the other way. It can be that, we're not talking about necessarily defunding the police. It can be something where we work collaboratively together. And this resolution does not say collaboration. It says we care more about our police than anything else. And that is just not okay. And it needs to be changed. Thank you.
All right, Jessica, thank you. And I got Carrie raising her hand.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much, Council and Mr. Mayor. I am a mom of school-age children. I respect the heck out of what Chief Dyer is doing with our law enforcement officers here in Lake Stevens. His training efforts are exceptionally commendable, and I told him as such in our conversation last week. To me, Resolution 2020-21 is just words. I'm asking as a member of the Allies for BIPOC for action. I understand service and I understand sacrifice. My husband was a 20-year Navy veteran, and I have friends who received the knock that nobody wants to receive when she was told her husband wasn't coming back from Iraq. So I understand what our law enforcement officers and their families go through day in and day out. I understand that on a very deep level. I think we owe it to our law enforcement officers and to the city to open the dialogue and see what they need, what our officers need to be an effective community police service that is transparent. We, as members of the Allies for BIPOC, want a community-based policing model that includes the community it serves, especially those in the minority community. I want the community to be a part of it so we know where we can play our role in this community, where we can serve as well in diversion programs or mentoring programs or anything like that to make Lake Stevens safer. I'm asking the council to honor the commitment that was made in the June 23rd resolution of not just the equity training, but to engage in the community to better understand the issues of race and equity. We're asking you to join us in our effort to create a community-based policing task force, to open the dialogue, to bring everyone together, the community, our police officers, and members of council, so we can all have a greater understanding and move forward as the one community around the lake. We, the citizens of Lake Stevens, this council, this city can be the example of what positive community-based policing looks like. It's up to you guys, the members of council, to be brave enough to put aside this resolution and commit to action. We need to bring people together like the Brothers in Healing and members of the community so we can really find out what our law enforcement needs to be most effective in this community. And just like you said, Mayor, you know, one team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate your comments. Do I have any other hands up? Christine, is your hand up?
Yeah.
I didn't know if it's Chris, hand up or mosquitoes out there. Go ahead.
Oh, well, probably both.
Okay.
So I have loved listening to this conversation tonight, getting everybody's different perspectives. I completely agree that perhaps some rewriting could be done on the resolution, but I just wanted to voice my support for everything that the Lake Stevens Police Department does. I sat on the citizens panel to interview Chief Dyer, and it was a fascinating process, and he has brought a lot to the community. We rely on the police department for our business, keeping our customers and our staff safe. I know that if I have an issue, I can pick up the phone, dial 911, and somebody will be there. And then also in my years as being on the Aquafest executive board and running the festival, the partnership that the police department brought the festival, keeping it safe and planning the for everybody in the community was greatly appreciated. And then on a personal level, we have a house in Lake Stevens, and that was having some turmoil. I'm gonna call it turmoil. And our neighbors across the street were in constant communication with the police department pretty much on a daily basis, trying to get some help to a couple of people, and that ended up resolving itself on our end. But I know that I can count on all the different police officers that I've had the pleasure of working with in the last 10 plus years.
Great, thank you, Christine. And I've got Shaylin. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, City Council. My name is Shaylin Charvet Bates. I'm a longtime resident of Lake Stevens, but today I'm speaking to you as the chair of the library board. I noticed that the library board, or that, I'm sorry, that the move to the police station was on the agenda for this evening. And that surprised me because as the chair of the library board, I hadn't heard that there had been any movement on that. We had a meeting in July. This was not mentioned in July in any way. In conversations with Snow Isle, who has been pretty transparent, I feel like maybe we're all a little bit surprised by this. Nobody has reached out from the city to talk about this. So I'm a little bit concerned about that maybe this is being brought up all of a sudden without a lot of conversation from the board that the city council has appointed to oversee the library needs of the city and to work with this between the city and Snow Isle. And so I would just request that maybe going forward that we take a look at this. We have a meeting scheduled for October that we would be really happy to discuss this further to get a little bit more information from both the city and Snow Isle. We would appreciate that. So I thank you for your time and consideration. And as this moves forward, I look forward to doing the work that you've asked us to do, which is to represent the citizens of Lake Stevens. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shaylin. And I have Pam Summers. I got you, Jeannie. We'll go Pam right now.
Hi. I wanted to mention that from last week's workshop, Mayor Gailey asked Council President Marcus Tagent to move the issue of the vote for moving his position from part-time to full-time onto this week's agenda, essentially leaping over the previous council decision to wait until after their retreat in October. I'm really disappointed in that move and in a potential vote for this evening. This appears to be a fairly self-serving move, and it concerns me a lot. There were over 30 citizen comments that were sent in about this issue, and in the previous meetings, none of those were actually spoken about or read. And I looked at them, and the majority of those comments are concerned that we should wait, that the city should wait for at least a year, maybe a little longer, to get through the pandemic before you change this to a full-time position. And then again, the majority felt it was irresponsible fiscally. So I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pam. And Jeannie, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, everyone. Earlier today, and not in time for the packet, I sent an email out to all the council, to Jean and to Mayor Gailey, regarding my support for the law enforcement resolution. And I'm not going to read it, but I just want to reiterate that there might be a missing component here that we're all not thinking about when we think about providing our support to the police officers at large. We have community members that live here that work in other districts that are police officers, say in Everett or Snohomish or wherever. They live in Lake Stevens. They're our community officers. And I believe strongly that we need to show our support to them as well as their families and their children, because there's so much hate right now happening to police officers, and it's ridiculous. There are a minutia of issues, and we need to look at the facts of every single case out there, not just label everybody a bad police officer. So I want to reiterate my support 100% for the resolution as it's written. I would also like to say, and I heard a little bit about the part with the kids and the police resources in the schools. When my kids are now out of high school, so they were born and raised here in Lake Stevens, have attended schools through Lake Stevens, they loved the resource officers. And they expressed a lot of support for the resource officers and said even that the children or the students that got into trouble liked them too, because they gave them respect that maybe those kids didn't get elsewhere. And were they reprimanded for whatever they were doing? Probably. Rightly? Probably. But they were given so much respect. So I would again like to share my support for that. And then onto regarding the full-time mayor. Being in this community for 25 years, I have watched it grow tremendously. And the amount of time that all of our city council puts in to read the packet, educate yourself on the issues, talk to constituents, talk to business leaders. It takes an enormous amount of time to do that. The mayor is also responsible to be working with the staff at the city. So I believe strongly we need a full-time mayor. And our current mayor was actually voted in pretty overwhelmingly. So I think that we move forward with this instead of waiting, because if you wait, we're that much farther down the road. And the mayor also supports surrounding communities, supports Lake Stevens with surrounding communities to get things going. So I'm in 100% support of that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeannie. Do I have any other comments tonight? I don't see any hands up. Melissa, was your hand up?
Yes, it was. Thank you, Mayor Gailey. I would like to say thank you to Shaylin for speaking on behalf of the library board. I agree with her that the library board needs to be spoken with about matters concerning Snow Isle. I know that we're in a time right now where it's really hard for people to communicate effectively. I fully support the city and Snow Isle working together to make a space that works for our temporary library, which it looks like that's probably what we're going to be talking about later. But I really hope that you don't jump to any conclusions thinking that we're just going to throw it in the police station and be done with it. I really want you guys to have serious discussion with Snow Isle, serious discussion with your library board. Everybody commits a lot of time into this, and I would appreciate it if you would commit that same amount of time when making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And I have a hand up from Kristen. Go ahead, Kristen.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Kristen Federswalp, and I've lived in Lake Stevens for, about 17 years now. And I actually wanted to initially comment on the police resolution, but I feel that a lot of people have already spoken to that. And I just really want to echo that I think that that needs to be rewritten. It is definitely inflammatory. And I really hope that council takes what they've heard tonight into consideration about that. However, I also want to echo what Melissa just said and Shaylin, and I'm noticing a pattern as I've read news stories about the council meetings and the minutes after the fact and listening tonight. I know that you all work very hard and I respect your service. I am noticing, however, that there seems to be a tendency to jump ahead with a quick resolution. The racial equity resolution in June, the police support resolution tonight. Apparently there's discussion about the library and the library board was not consulted. I would love to see things move at what is perhaps a more frustrating pace, but a pace where the community is fully brought into the conversation, including organizations like the library board. So I'm really speaking to all of those issues as it turns out. It is a difficult time, I understand, for council or anyone to be meeting, but we absolutely need to find a way to bring community members from all walks of life into these conversations and not just have it happening at council workshops. Thank you for your service, and I hope that you will all take that into consideration.
Great, thank you, Kristen. And do I have any other comments? Not seeing any other hands raised. All right, so with that, we're going to move to the mayor's business, and I'm going to keep it really short due to time here. Just a couple of things that I had in some pretty good discussions with the city of Everett about hopefully getting some movement on the water line discussion that is such a vital part to our city and our economic development, the water line off of 20th Street. Hopefully made some headway last week with their mayor. The other thing I'd like to do is make sure that we keep all those wildland firefighters and emergency services personnel on the other side of the mountains in our prayers, and making sure that they are safe in combating those fires. It's as we can tell, there's influences of emergency services folks all around our state, because if they weren't doing their job, we would hopefully get these fires out quicker and our quality of air would get better. So keep them in our prayers for us. Kelly, I think I'm going to do the suicide awareness in my business.
Okay.
Because we have Justine on board with us. So one of the things we did do is we put together a proclamation on National Suicide Prevention and Recovery Month. And I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas the week of September 6th through 12th, 2020 is National Suicide Prevention Week, and September 2020 is National Recovery Month, when millions of people around the world join their voices to share a message of hope and healing. And whereas these observances are united in raising awareness that prevention is possible, treatment is effective, and people do recover. And whereas in these challenging times, messages of hope and healing are more needed than ever. And whereas City of Lake Stevens residents should be able to access high quality prevention, support, rehabilitation, and treatment services that lead to recovery and a healthy lifestyle. And whereas every day in Snohomish County, people enter treatment into behavioral health services and community supports and begin the road to wellness and recovery. And whereas resiliency begins early in life within families, daycares, and schools, and can be strengthened and reinforced throughout the lifespan. And whereas recovery and wellness encompass the whole individual, including mind, body, spirit, and community. And whereas the benefits of preventing and overcoming mental health challenges, suicide attempts, and loss, and substance abuse are significant and valuable to individuals, families, and our community at large. And whereas it is essential that we educate residents about suicide, mental health, and substance abuse problems and the ways they affect all people in the community. And whereas we must encourage relatives, friends, co-workers, and providers to recognize the signs of a problem and guide those in need to appropriate services and supports. And whereas Suicide Prevention Week and Recovery Month inspire millions of Americans to raise awareness, build resiliency, and find hope. Now I therefore, Brett Gailey, Mayor of the City of Lake Stevens, proclaim the month of September 2020 as Suicide Prevention and Recovery Month, finding hope, building resiliency, and supporting recovery in the City of Lake Stevens. So with that, I know for me, suicide, as a longtime retired police officer, it's something that those were the calls you did not want to go to, but you had to go to and you wanted to go to be able to be there for the family also. So it's a very sensitive topic, I get it. And because of that, we need to go ahead and create these sorts of proclamations so that these are, so that our citizens are aware of the issues of suicide. And we are super blessed because in the City of Lake Stevens, we have the president of the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, Justine McClure. And she is going to say a couple words for us.
Hello, good evening. Just a quick thumbs up. You guys can hear me okay?
Yep, you're there.
Yep. Okay, good. Thank you so much. It's an honor that you guys have set a proclamation, council and mayor. It's a big step forward for us in suicide prevention and substance abuse in different ways. Mental health needs to become a priority. And I think now more than ever with our current atmosphere, we're talking about our mental health more. People are realizing that their loved ones might be struggling or even themselves. And so knowing and identifying the resources that are in our community, knowing how to help somebody is is going to be life-saving. And especially as we continue throughout the fall and into the winter months, it really is a priority for everyone to take a moment and make sure you know the local resources, make sure you know how to just have a conversation with somebody and say, hey, how are you doing? This month with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, we're very focused on hashtag keep going. So we want people to know and understand that they're not alone, that as we are in isolation, as we are continuing to have struggles of things that we've never had to overcome before, it's okay, and other people are feeling that way. So I definitely want to encourage everybody to definitely reach out to someone if you need to speak with them. I definitely want to make sure that you guys, as leaders within our community, talk about your experience. It's okay to talk about if you've struggled and how you've overcome. And if you struggle currently, we know by having an open, honest conversation with somebody, that can really help someone who is struggling and who needs that support. I also encourage you to talk about self-care and how do you build resiliency in your day-to-day life. Suicide prevention starts with each and every one of us. We can all do our part. And self-care isn't a massage every day or something elaborate. Self-care can really be checking in on yourself, on your mental health, and even your own regular health. So I definitely encourage you to find that self-care and what that means to you, and talk about that to your friends, talk to your family members, even younger kids, talking about how to just take a moment away from everything around us. And so I really want to say thank you, and I so appreciate this proclamation on behalf of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And like Mayor Gelly said, I am a resident of Lake Stevens, and so it's an even bigger honor to be a part of this conversation. And if you have someone or need to reach me in any way, Mayor has my contact information, but you can also find us at afsp.org. And there's lots of resources on how to have a conversation, how to support somebody that might have lost a loved one or struggles, or even how to continue on if somebody has attempted suicide. So with that, thank you so much for your time. And it's been an honor to sit in on your meeting.
Justine, thank you very much for being here with us. Angie, I think what we'll do is I'm going to ask for a motion if we want to pass this proclamation. Then under discussion, council members can throw in their 2 cents.
Great. I would like to move that we pass the proclamation as written.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and discussion.
I'll keep this super brief. This is Angie. Justine, thank you so much for your willingness to be a part of this meeting tonight and your words. And it is us who is honored to have you here and to have you speak on behalf of this. So thank you so much. Just really quick question, Mayor Galey. I'm curious to hear, just because this wasn't on the agenda and wasn't part of the workshop discussion, how this resolution came to be and sort of the urgency around it.
This morning's staff meeting, Kelly brought it up and realized that we were in the middle of the month, and so we did it. And I hope it doesn't ruffle feathers, but I think we should just pass this, and it's something that needs to be done and recognized.
Okay, thanks. I just was curious to hear a little bit about the process. Appreciate it.
I just say, I just want to weigh in. Justine did an outstanding job with the Suicide Awareness Walk last year as part of the Snohomish County chapter. I know the mayor and I participated in that, and it was a great opportunity. So thank you, Justine, for being such an advocate for mental health and suicide prevention.
Thank you, Steve, so very much. I appreciate all of you that have participated. I know there was a large showing the last couple of years from Lake Stevens, and everybody has mental health. And I think you as leaders are definitely showing the ripple effect of having a conversation, being smart about our mental health, and realizing that it's okay to not be okay. And accessing resources and sharing your stories is a top priority. So thank you to all of you that I've worked with and that have continued to reach out. It's definitely very warming to be a part of this community that's very open to having a conversation. As I travel throughout this state, there's other communities that aren't so much inviting to talk about mental health, and suicide prevention is needed in every single community. So thank you.
Great. Do I have any other council members?
Yes, Justine, thank you for your presentation. Especially in light of what our current environment or situation is. It's an important topic. I think probably every one of us knows somebody or have had family members that have faced this tragedy. So in light of what's going on right now, I think it's tremendously important that we recognize this as an issue. A lot of people are suffering right now, so thank you.
I would also like to echo that as well. Thank you for being here tonight. It's something that's close to my heart as well, as I've had it in my family. And I just really think this is a great thing for our community. And I just really look forward to moving this ordinance forward tonight.
Great. Any other council members want to add in the discussion? Okay, and with that, I'll go ahead and do a call for a vote verbally. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, I didn't hear any opposed. Excellent. So we have a proclamation. Thank you very much, council. Thank you, Justine, for being here tonight. All right, so let's go to the next. I'm going to forego any other business and go to city department reports. Gene.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything this evening, nor does.
Okay. And with that, we have the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved. Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
The second was
Sean.
Got it. Thank you.
Hearing no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, perfect. Then let's move on to the public hearing, and we have Russ, Machias Industrial Annexation.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. So tonight, the council would reopen the public hearing for the Machias Industrial Annexation. And then by way of action, you will need to continue the public hearing once again. As you saw in your staff report, we have received feedback from Snohomish County. At this point, the annexation was not certified. Over the past week, I've been in communication with 4 other property owners in the area that would like to probably add their names to the petition. So that would be the next step, coming back to council with a revised petition and then continuing your public hearing, and we will send it on to Snohomish County for their certification. And I don't have any other comments for the council tonight, but happy to address any questions about the process.
Russ, just one quick question. Was there any indication at the time of submittal that the petition wouldn't be certified?
No, it was just a matter of miscalculations on the valuation.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. So with that, Greg, do we need to open a public hearing, or can we just move to the next item?
you'll need to open the public hearing.
Okay.
And then you can take comment if anyone has comment tonight, but then continue the public hearing to
Okay.
A date.
Okay, perfect. So with that, I'll open a public hearing on the Machias Industrial Annexation. And with that, Russ, do you have any further staff report?
No, I don't, Mayor.
Okay, council, is there any questions for the staff? Hearing no questions for staff, I'll open the floor for public comments. Does anybody have any public comments on the Machias Industrial Annexation? Any comments? Hearing no comments, I'll go ahead and close the public comments portion of the hearing, but we'll leave the public hearing open. Is that correct, Greg?
Yes, and if we could have a motion to continue it to, I don't know if Russ has a recommended date.
Originally, I had been thinking September 22nd. That would be the soonest. The latest would be October 13th. So if we could have a motion to extend it to one of those dates would be great.
Okay, if I get one of those, someone to make a motion on that.
Russ,
To
which
continue
date?
the public hearing to annex 67 acres known as Machias Industrial Annexation to September 22nd.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Wait,
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
do we need to roll call that? Are we good?
No.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, great. So with that, we'll move on to action item H, which is legislative priorities, and Gene.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I introduced the draft legislative priorities last week, and this evening we have the privilege to have our state lobbyist on board tonight to discuss these priorities, Mr. Doug Levy.
Thank you, Gene, and thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. And I'm going to tag team this evening, I think, with Kelly, who's going to screen share the draft 2021 legislative agenda. I say draft because at the end of the day, we need to make sure this is something you all are comfortable as having as your legislative agenda. So we welcome your feedback on it. In view of a very long meeting tonight, I'm going to try and be in search of brevity here and make good use of your time. So Kelly, if you can, while you're pulling that up, just to give you a quick entree into the 2021 session to come. This will be a long session of the legislature as odd number years are. So 105 days that will take them through the end of April. The big headliner issues obviously influenced dramatically by COVID-19. The legislature is dealing with all the economic upheaval that we're seeing and an $8.8 billion shortfall in their operating budget. At the same time, when the state deals with these kinds of operating budgets, they are going to be looking for opportunities to invest in infrastructure and jobs creation. And so you'll see from the legislative agenda before you that we speak to some opportunities, I think, in terms of transportation and capital budget in particular. I'm going to do a quick run through these items rather than a sentence by sentence run, but you can see under transportation investments, with the recognition that the legislature may very well look to figure out new revenue ways to fund the transportation system. We want to make sure that the US2 trestle improvements and replacement are high on the list. We've called out some other projects, including 20th and Main, and funding of 2 particular pathways in the community that are important to you all, South Lake Stevens Road and the downtown multi-use path. And you can see our requests there. And then that last asterisk is a number of programmatic and policy things that we want to be supportive of if the legislature is doing a transportation package. Direct distribution of money to cities and counties, keeping funding, and hopefully adding some funding for critical grant programs like the Transportation Improvement Board that your community in particular depends upon, providing Lake Stevens and cities and counties around the state with local funding options that they can evaluate. Reminding our legislators that when they talk about culvert removals, that we want to make sure that that's an emphasis not just on those owned by the state, but on local culvert removals as well. And then we know there's also going to be discussions of more effective, accountable, reform-oriented ways to spend transportation dollars, and we list a receptivity to that. On the capital budget side, we've sort of sounded our appreciation for the 44th Legislative District delegation in all of their work in securing previous funds for capital needs. And I have to tell you all, you have a great reputation with the legislature in taking the money you receive and putting it to good use and putting it to use in a timely way. So you've built, as a city, a great deal of credibility with the legislature. And so we have the idea of continuing the Civic Center work that's really transforming the community. And you can see the request for 2.1 million to fund the next stage of the Civic Center redevelopment. And that in particular would go toward construction of a festival street through the downtown core. The thing I'll call out here under the fiscal resources in particular is the mayor has brought up the idea of maybe whether we in Lake Stevens can explore on marijuana revenue distribution some ways to either look at local options or other approaches that can recognize not just communities with a retail presence, but also those with a large canopy and growing presence. And that's the case with Lake Stevens. So this first one here, I don't want you to think we have all the answers, but we want to explore with our legislators some ideas here that may give you some local revenue options. We're exploring an initial meeting with Representative Lovick to talk through these things. We would have more to report back on and update on this one. The others are going to look pretty familiar to you, protecting the state shared revenues you do receive. Fiscal flexibility is a bill that's out there. One House Democrat, Jerry Paulette, one House Republican, Keith Gaynor, from each side of the state with a bill to allow cities and counties more flexible use during this COVID-19 period of time with some of your existing revenues. The last one, I think that you heard Councilmember Dickinson reference briefly, there are going to be a lot of discussions amongst the 2021 legislature, probably 6 or more different bills dealing with how to reimagine and reform policing and training. And as we've reviewed most of those, I think we feel Lake Stevens can and will be receptive to many of them. We have a caution flag where we ask legislators to remember that where there are funding components, it's important for state funds to accompany state mandates and directives. And we call out mental health as one example of that, where we wouldn't want to see the legislature just cost shift the problem entirely onto locals. Kelly, if you can scroll down. I'm not going to get into any of these, but in each one of our legislative agendas, we have what we call support and oppose items, and those will tracker monitor. Those are ones where others are more likely leading the way, and Lake Stevens would be in joining in with support or opposition or simply tracking things. Those first couple of pages are more where you would have, you know, your advocacy and myself as your lobbyist spending particular time. And Kelly, if you'll scroll to the very end there, the last thing I'll note is we have, for the last few years, put in place a federal agenda with some brief federal priorities. Those are called out. The one I'm noticing we didn't explicitly call out, but we also have urged our congressional delegation to think about stimulus package ideas, and we've had the opportunity to meet with Congressman Larson. We'll have the opportunity to meet with Congresswoman Del Bene to go over some of those. So that's a quick spin through the draft agenda. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have on it before you take anything forward.
Hey, Doug, Councilmember Ewing, we talked about it last week, but I just want to thank you personally for your extraordinary efforts to represent our city in such an effective way. When we met with elected officials in Olympia, it was clear that there was a mutual respect between you and our elected officials, and I know that your influence is blessing the lives of our citizens and the community at large. So thank you so much for your efforts.
Councilmember Ewing, thanks. Those are really kind words. I appreciate them very much. I did forget one thing, and I forgot to, with a nod toward Councilmember Peter Shagan, I think there was a request by council that we also do some outreach to neighboring cities in the county to see where we might have common legislative areas to jointly advocate. So I wanted you to know that the mayor had asked that we do outreach to some of those cities, and we've contacted Everett, Marysville, Arlington, Monroe, Snohomish County. They're all in their development phase with legislative agendas, but I think expressed a real interest in teaming up with Lake Stevens. So I applaud the idea that you all put forward of seeing where you can rally around common themes and ideas.
Well, Doug, I appreciate your work on this. What I really appreciate is that it's a continuous line of legislative requests that we've been doing for several years. The decisions we've made several years ago are still ongoing, and we're marching down that path, and you're taking a really good a cut at keeping us on the path there, and I really appreciate you helping us with that. I don't have any problems with what this legislative agenda is doing. I also appreciate the fact that you know what's going on down there and can lead us into different pathways that might benefit us with what is happening in real time, other than what our legislative agenda really is. And I've seen you do that for the last couple, 3-4 years, and it's pretty impressive that what we have gained from your expertise down in Olympia. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Daughtry. The mayor did mention the word team earlier in the meeting, and I appreciate the kind words. I want you to know that we don't put this stuff on paper in a vacuum, and your staff has been absolutely terrific in helping to develop all this and think about a continuation of themes like Civic Center. So I really wanted to give a shout out to the mayor and staff on this as well.
I also would like to chime in a little bit. Doug, your work in Washington, D.C. last time we went there as a team, and you were phenomenal down there. You had great connections, and you kept us very well connected. So not only do we get the representation here in Olympia, but also Doug had a very strong hand in D.C. as well, and got us through all the meetings, said we're well prepared. And the other thing I think that gets missed is things happen very fast down in Olympia at times. So when we're down there in Olympia, it's like, hey, I need this. I need a letter from the city. And like you said, it's a cooperative thing, but he's like, I need these things from you guys right away. And he keeps us very much in the forefront of opportunities to get grant funding and everything else. So he's watching out for not only the city of Lake Stevens as general, but also the funding and funding mechanisms that go along with that. And then understanding the dynamics of who to introduce certain things, and then who's going to go along with it, the dynamics that go along with doing that. So Doug, I really appreciate everything you do for the city. I look forward to the upcoming agenda, and thank you for being part of the Lake Stevens team. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much, Councilmember Tadgen.
Yes, Doug, I would like to echo Councilmember Tadgen's comments. And truth be told, there's strength in numbers. So I appreciate you reaching out to our adjacent communities. And just case in point, you probably all read in the Herald here lately about Marysville's little predicament of having a issue delayed because of potential lack of funding, and yet they kind of rallied the troops and so forth and put the press on WashDOT to reevaluate that, and we're, I believe, successful in doing that. So again, strength in numbers, and I think we can go down with a strategic agenda. I think hopefully from Snohomish County as well would certainly be beneficial. So thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is an action item. And so if I could get a motion to pass our legislative priorities.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Ewing and a second by Councilmember Jorstad. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? I hear none opposed. Perfect. I would echo the words about Doug. He's I'd probably call him too much every week. He's on my team, that's for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So with that, let's move to the next item, which is resolution number 2020-21, a resolution recognizing and supporting police officers and law enforcement professionals. And I'll open up the discussion on this. I'm the one that introduced this resolution. I introduced this resolution as I could see across the nation that we have law enforcement on the front lines, separating us between truly violent chaos in a lot of our cities. And I think it's very important that we as a community recognize the sacrifices of our law enforcement professionals, not only those who serve us directly with Lake Stevens Police Department, but really those who not only, we have law enforcement professionals, federal, state, sheriffs, local police officers who live in our community. We had one speak earlier. So I think it's very important that we not only recognize our local Lake Stevens PD who does it. I would absolutely echo all the comments earlier that we're very fortunate to have a great police department who does a very good job in policing our community. But I think it's also important to recognize the tough job that that many people don't want to do, and that is done by a select few in our communities across our country. And because of that, I introduced this resolution, and I recognize, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure why it's divisive, really. It's supporting law enforcement officers who do a job that few people want to do, a job that is often thankless, often 12 hours a day of truly heart-wrenching incidents time after time, and a job that has few thank yous. And so that's why I introduced this resolution. If it's divisive to you, I don't understand that. It's purely out of the thought process of thanking our law enforcement for being between us and chaos every day. And with that, in order to have discussion on the motion, on the resolution, we would need to have a motion on the resolution.
Motion to approve resolution 2020-21.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Frederick, and I think the second was Councilmember Ewing or Councilmember Daughtry? Councilmember Ewing? Okay, and with that, do we have any discussion on the motion?
If I may, I'll jump into the quagmire here. The comments that I heard tonight were comments that are interesting in the regard of, I didn't hear any, if you would do this, it would be acceptable, or if you would change this, it would be acceptable. A lot that I heard tonight was it's simply divisive and not respectful of minority community members. And so I look at this resolution and I read through it over and over and over, and I come back to the one sentence that really helps me, I guess, understand this. And it's regarding this issue of our national police situation. The statement in here expresses unwavering support for law enforcement officers of the city of Lake Stevens and across the United States who act ethically and with integrity in the pursuit of preserving safe and secure communities. This resolution does not support police officers that do not act ethically or with no integrity. And I guess that's the argument that I'm having a hard time with, is we have a minority of police officers in this country who do the wrong thing. We all know that. And we see it on the news, we see it everywhere, over and over. The vast majority of our police officers and other first responders are decent, ethical, moral people. And to categorize them and not support them, I think is wrong. We have a fabulous police force here in the city of Lake Stevens. And to answer a couple of the questions of getting the officers the appropriate training that they need to make them better officers, we do have a process in the city of Lake Stevens. We have an annual budgeting process where the chief comes to the city council and proposes what he needs. And the vast majority of that is granted. We do have some funding limitations, of course, as in any budgeted process. But we do have a process where the police department is trying to better themselves and trying to make them more representative of the community. There's always a process for improvement. And I think the Lake Stevens Police Department recognizes that. And I think by and large, they achieve that goal every year. We've had some problems in the past, certainly, but we're on the right path, and this community is moving forward in concert with the police department. So I would support this resolution. I do think that we need to support our police officers for exactly what it says: pursuit of preserving safe and secure communities. We rely on those folks to do that. And without them, I don't know where we'd be. So I support this resolution. I hope everyone else does. Thank you.
May I speak? May I ask Chief Dyer a question? Is he still here?
Yes.
Great. So Chief Dyer, I was wondering, were you consulted about this resolution prior to it appearing on our agenda for last week's meeting? I'm just curious about that.
I was not. I had some time off. One of my commanders was consulted. I was not personally.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So Lake Stevens Police are, yes, doing a fabulous job for our community. And that man right there, John Dyer, Chief Dyer, is why. And sitting in on the workshop, I saw that exactly what the gentleman in the workshop that I was at was talking about is exactly the way our chief is running his shop here in Lake Stevens. So fortunately for us, we are very blessed. However, this resolution as it's written includes nationwide police forces, which may or may not be doing the same. I would suggest before voting for this resolution that we reword the resolution to reflect only our Lake Stevens Police Department. And also maybe add something that shows that we're actually going to help the police, actually help them by providing a way for them to get more folks to get health, mental health. It's been a long day, I'm telling you. To get mental health if they need it, to have counseling if they need it, to have mental health experts intervene if there's a case that comes up that doesn't involve a policeman, that you can have someone with from the mental health community to respond, so that the police are not being asked to do things that they're not truly trained to do. The police I saw at my workshop are suffering, and talking about these suicide awareness made me think of how rough their lives are. It's very difficult work. It's even more difficult than being a middle school teacher, I can tell you. It's very hard work, and every day you have to face trials, and people don't always give you the respect that you actually deserve. But at the same time, I think as a city's council, we could maybe help more rather than just say, good job, and we approve, and then, okay, good luck with what you got going on. But we could help more, I do believe. And also we could reword this so it won't be bringing out bad feelings from people in our community, which there were a lot of comments out here today. And I can see that there's a lot of unhappiness about the way it's worded. I think it can be fixed. And I think it is not a complicated fix. And I would like to see it reworded. So that's my comment on it as it is today.
Great. Do we have any other comments?
I find it hard to put into words some of the things that I feel about this resolution. But I will tell you one of the things that I'm a little bit sad about. I'm sad that the majority of the people that contacted me in the past week were in favor of the resolution, but do not want to come on with the council and speak. And the reason that they don't want to do that is because of the Black Lives Matter movement. That's what they told me. So it's important to have people speak to us about why they think things are divisive or why they think it should be rewritten a different way. I think the resolution was written quite well, actually, and I think that Council Member Peter Sagan did an eloquent job of saying why. I agree with him, but I just wish that all of the people, and I'm going to use the same word that everybody else has said, the majority of the people of Lake Stevens are in favor of the police resolution. So what does the majority mean? And we hear people say, well, the majority of the people that I taught, that the majority of Lake Stevens feel unsafe. The majority of the people are against the resolution. Well, I'm here to tell you that we only have a few people that have come in and commented on this, and there's 33,000 people in Lake Stevens. So I'm sorry, but the majority have not spoken. It's a minority. And the other minority of the people that have spoken positive about this thing don't come on and speak, because guess what? They're afraid also. So I'm in support of this resolution. I've always been in support of this resolution. I will vote to have this resolution move forward, but I'm also in favor of some of the other things that people have said. I'm in favor of community policing. I'm in favor of BIPOC, or however you, whatever that organization is. I'm probably messing that up big time, but I'm in favor of them coming and telling us their side of the story. I'm in favor of figuring out what people in our city need to feel safe, what they need to move forward, what they need to enrich their lives, and how we can help them. One of the things that bothers me that we did in another resolution is that resolution covered things that happened in the country, not in Lake Stevens. And here now we have another resolution that we're going to have things that covered in the country, and that's different somehow. I don't understand the difference. Having a resolution that says that we don't appreciate the hate, that we don't condone it because of a thing that happened outside the city is no different than having a resolution that says that we respect and back up the police officers in the United States. It's no different, at least not to me. So I want all of this to happen. I'm ready to go to training. I will tell you, I've had 18 years of this training. I don't need any more training on inclusivity. That one of the Navy's things is every year we went through training. 25 years in the Navy, 18 of it I went to training. So I don't really need to go through this training again. I don't have a problem with race, sexual orientation, any of the things that we're talking about. I'm inclusive of everybody. That's just my personal philosophy. The other question I have is, okay, we go through this inclusivity training, et cetera, et cetera. What about the other 33,000 people in the city? How do we get them the training? How do we get them to see this? There's not that many people that are going to be able to do this. How do we do that? So I would hope that this group of people who want to come together and lead us through this have answers to that. How do we get to the people with this thing? This is not a city council problem. It isn't the city council is going to be able to fix everything. We need the help of the community. And I'm glad that there's people out there that are willing to step up and help. I'm willing to be a part of that. That conversation needs to be held and needs to be held quickly. Anyway, the resolution, as far as I'm concerned, needs to go forward, and I am going to vote for it.
Any other discussion?
Yes. I'm going to open. I'm going to open. I'm going to start with. Obviously, I made the motion for the resolution, so obviously I support the resolution as is. I will go further and say that I was actually the city councilman that the mayor did not disclose at the workshop last week, who worked with him on the resolution. I did not find the language divisive. However, what I won't do, what I won't do, and I don't know why there's that echo right now, is be dismissive of the comments of others or downplay the significance of how anyone else has read or interprets the resolution. That would be wrong. The question of what do we do from here once we have the training, I think is a very simple question to answer. I think we have to set the example as representatives of the city, and first and foremost, not be dismissive of opinions that may not reflect our own. I think we have to set the example, and when we have agreed that we will do things in a set time frame, that we demonstrate the integrity to stick to those time frames. I think that that is how we demonstrate to 33,000 people that we are doing the right thing and truly being inclusive. I don't see this as a complicated thing, and I refuse to make it more complicated than it is. Yes, we need the training. All of us need the training. The world is changing rapidly. Anyone who can't see that needs the training more than the rest of us. But there needs to be training, and it isn't a problem. It really shouldn't be a problem for us to acknowledge that there's more for us to learn. There's more for us to learn from each other. With that, I do support the resolution as is. I have responded to several of the emails that we've all received, and I'm very committed and reached out to several of them and asked to be included in the Lake Stevens Allies for BIPOC to learn more about what their work is, because I'm not aware of it. And I recognize even someone who grew up as I did in the South has a lot to learn about inclusivity. So with that, I support the resolution moving forward.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. Sean, great comments. I'm going to also vote for this tonight as well. We've got a great police department. And I think every officer out there, I mean, I think you have your outliers, but every officer out there is trying to do a great job to take care of their communities, and why we think our community is inclusive and important. There's so many officers who think their community is inclusive and important too. So for that, I know this is reaching out across a bigger boundary than the city of Lake Stevens, but like Kim Daughtry said, there's a lot of people who have a lot of different input. We've got a lot of input from people who don't love this statement, but we're not always going to make everyone happy. And statements take people different directions and make people feel differently. But what I think we can do in this time is support officers who are doing the right thing and say, we want to be part of training. We want to be part of having a different outlook on society as we move forward. And this is a great opportunity to say, hey, we support all those things. And I feel like this is what this does, is we're supportive of our police officers here in Lake Stevens, Washington. And if you think about it, we're up here in the corner of the Pacific Northwest, and we have a big area of people that we're saying, hey, we support. But it just takes a little bit to make a big difference. And to make a difference here in Lake Stevens, Washington, I'm willing to do that to support our officers, as I've always have. So that's where I'm looking forward to supporting this tonight. And I appreciate all the comments. It's nice to see so many people commenting, and I've been looking through emails all afternoon, and even during this meeting, I keep reading through emails of people saying support, don't support, and so forth. And there's a lot of people who have very different feelings, so it weighs on my mind of how to support and not support. But I definitely fall in the favor of our Lake Stevens Police Department. Great job, John Dyer. Our certification goes a long ways to saying, hey, we're doing great things here in Lake Stevens. So for that, once again, that's been a really big thing for the city of Lake Stevens, for John to have the support to get our accreditation. And I think there's a lot of police departments that are doing great things, and let's try to support them, and let's all try to be doing better moving forward. And that's where I'm at. Thanks.
I think I'm the last one up. I'll be super brief. Brett, or Mayor Gailey, I really appreciate your opening comments and your willingness to just put out there that you don't understand how this is a divisive resolution. I think it takes a lot of courage to just, kind of be transparent and be open. And I appreciate that. I think especially after the conversations I've had and hearing the comments tonight, I can't understand how it's not seen as divisive. And so I guess I would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee and share our experiences and kind of where we're coming from and why we have such incredibly different perspectives on this resolution. I think that I'm not going to change anyone's minds with what I have to say, and that's not my intention. I think that as an elected official, I ran so that I could elevate the voices of those who go unheard. And I think that, I said this before, law enforcement is an institution that protects, by and large, those people that look like me and that are, part of the white middle class social fabric. And I think we have a lot of folks, some who were courageous enough to speak tonight, who are people of color, who are part of marginalized communities, whose relationship with law enforcement is different than ours. And we are a community of 33,000 people, and we all have absolutely different perspectives and experiences. And that's what makes us great. And I think we need to listen to all of those voices. We need to especially listen to the voices that are courageous enough to speak out. You're right, Kim, we can't make everyone happy. And I would hope that we don't try to do that. But I do hope that we listen to those who take the time and take the opportunity to speak out. What I heard tonight overwhelmingly was tremendous support for the Lake Stevens Police Department. And having the opportunity to attend the training, I was able to, really hear their concerns and their fear about the future of policing. I think we absolutely should be supporting our local police department. I think there's fear in this community in supporting policing nationally. And for those reasons, I would support a resolution that lifted up our Lake Stevens Police Department. I can't support this resolution as it supports policing as a whole. Thank you.
All right, with those comments, do I have a call for a vote? I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And all those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Kelly, did you get those?
Yeah, the two opposed, Councilmember Dickinson and Councilmember Jurstad, correct?
That's correct. Great.
Thanks for doing that. I just want to make a motion. We need to make a motion to approve going past 9 o'clock once again. And see if everybody is okay with going past the 9 o'clock threshold.
So moved.
Second.
I would counter move that and say that I think it's been a long night. It's been kind of emotional. I would say that the two things in the discussion item could be put off. We also have some comments from the Snow Isle or our library board that are not happy with the way this discussion came up on the agenda tonight without them being informed of it. I don't think that was anything that was intentional, but I would like to try to get that fixed before we go into the discussion. We've already, and that's the last thing that's on this on our agenda for the night. So I would like to put that off and stop the meeting for the night.
I agree with Kim. I think that there have been several new things that have come to light. I would love an opportunity to reach out to folks and get some more information and postpone the Snow Isle Library conversation until our next meeting.
I agree.
So if that's the case, then we would just need a motion to close the meeting.
I move to adjourn the city council meeting.
Right.
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Mayor, we do have the full-time mayor discussion vote on action, or the full-time mayor ordinance.
Was that action or discussion? Sorry.
That's an
Action.
I guess, I feel the same way about that. I think that that was also not on the agenda and something that was kind of brought up last minute. I would like to move that we postpone the full-time mayor discussion and the Snow Isle Library discussion to our next meeting, and that we allow for citizen comments and then end tonight's meeting.
Just a reminder, our next meeting is a workshop.
The next council meeting.
So the reason, I don't believe the reason the mayor issue was not on the agenda is because it was tabled. And so it needed to be untabled. That's not something that could be put on the agenda. So I'm in favor of postponing the Snow Isle discussion. And since we already have it on the agenda to discuss or to take action on that item, my understanding is there's no discussion necessary. If I'm understanding Greg's input, and we just take a vote, up and down vote, and then we can adjourn the meeting. We're already 15 minutes past, so we're.
So I need a motion to extend the meeting to have this one item. I don't like getting past 9 o'clock at night, and that's something we need to look at in is starting the meeting at a different time.
I'll make a motion to extend our council meeting by 10 minutes.
So if I'm sorry, we do have a motion on the table already from Councilmember Ewing and seconded by Councilmember Frederick to go past 9 o'clock. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Already. So I think we just need a vote.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a point of clarification, there's also citizen comment on the agenda still as well.
I would like to see us handle this one item topic, kind of similar like Councilmember Gary Petersagen said. Let's extend it for 10 minutes to handle this one item and then be done for the night. And we can pick up any other comments. Anyone who has a comment, please send those comments in to us, as I think all of our phones are full of comments tonight.
I think there are people that have been waiting on the meeting for 2.5 hours, potentially to make a comment at the end of the meeting. I don't feel comfortable not allowing that opportunity.
I agree.
Let's take a vote. Who wants to extend the meeting to include comment or just handle this one item and move forward? So if I can get a motion.
I move that we extend the meeting to allow for citizen comment.
Second.
So it's been first and second. Any comments? All in favor of extending the meeting to handle the mayor's meeting, and then on top of that, extend it for comment as well. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? I'm an aye for opposed. Gary Petersagen as well as opposed. So that would be, excuse me, everyone. So who's, can we just do a roll call, Kelly?
Yeah. Councilmember Daughtry,
Aye.
Councilmember Petersagen,
Opposed?
Councilmember Frederick,
Aye.
Councilmember Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Gerstad,
Aye.
Councilmember Ewing,
Aye.
Councilmember Tagent.
Opposed.
That passes 5-2.
All right, great. So that carries forward. So we'll talk about the mayor's meeting, then we'll have public comment as well.
President Tagent, would you like to lead that discussion?
Great. So as we've had on the agenda before us is the motion to look at having Mayor Galey go full-time. We have had all the information in front of us. Council member Ewing brought this to the agenda and would like a vote on whether or not we are looking to approve the mayor as a full-time position. We've had a vote before, we tabled it, and now we had last week as a discussion item on that. I would like to get a motion on this. If somebody wants to make a motion one way or the other, I'd like to see a motion on this so that way we can take a vote.
So you already have a motion. that's
Right.
been-
Kelly, did we have a motion before on the floor before it was tabled?
I do believe we did. Let me just check on that.
I believe we did.
Just a moment. Hold on.
Oh, you're talking about the motion to approve the agenda?
The ordinance.
The ordinance, okay.
Yeah, we had a motion to approve it and then it was tabled.
And then when it was tabled, so we've had a motion to take it off the table, so it reactivates the previous motion. So you don't need a new motion. You have, I believe, a motion on the floor to approve the ordinance.
Let me look at that here real quick.
Thank
Yes,
you for
you are
jumping in.
correct. I'm sorry. I just wanted to restate the motion that was made on August 25th, moved by Councilmember Ewing, seconded by Councilmember Daughtry to approve ordinance 1093 for a full-time mayor position.
Right, so the motion that was made passed tonight brings that motion back on the floor.
So then we'll move into any discussion item on that. Is that correct, council?
Yes.
Great, so have any discussion on that? So at any discussion on approving that motion? This would be the last opportunity for any council member to discuss any with that motion. So I'd like to go to a vote then, seeing no more discussion.
I have just a point I'd like to make. I think that the conversation after that motion was around tabling the motion until after the retreat so that we could kind of talk through the public comment and talk through additional information that came to light. I would like to propose that we continue to do that. I think that we've all talked about being in favor of moving forward with a full-time mayor for Lake Stevens. I just would like an opportunity to talk about what is the best timing for that for our city.
I thought we had tabled that motion because of the financial impacts that we were concerned about. Specifically, Councilmember Frederick and Tangent wanted some information about the financial projection of how this impacts us in the upcoming years.
I agree. I think that was part of the, sorry,
And I
President.
believe that information was presented at our last workshop. Is that not in?
I will chime in. I did want the financial projections. I did want financial ramifications around this. So, that was my concern. I wanted to get a better picture of how our financial, as we've made a lot of changes financially, and like everyone keeps talking about, looking at how this affects our community and our funding. So I've got a good picture of that from our last meeting, and I am prepared to move to a vote.
Well, may I ask about process here? It seems like it was a surprise to me that this came up tonight when we had such, I thought this was a pretty intense meeting in the first place. And then to have this added after we get into the Zoom meeting, I just don't think that's quite, just tell me, is that's okay to do it this way? That's my
Councilman
question.
Dickinson, this is completely appropriate. We have Council Robinstella with us.
Right.
This is
Yes.
procedural, correct?
I see you,
And
yes.
If a council member wants to bring this forward and have it voted on, and the majority of the council wants to do this, this is correct procedure. So we are following procedure right now.
Well, that was my question. Thank you.
So I will go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, and now discussion.
You should probably do a roll call vote.
I will call for a roll call vote, but
Okay, thank you.
so I will call for a vote. Kelly, if you will, I'm going to go all in favor of making a full-time mayor position out of this from the last meeting. Kelly, will you go ahead and roll call vote this for me, please?
Councilmember Daughtry.
Aye.
Councilmember Peter Shagan.
Aye.
Councilmember Frederick.
Aye.
Councilmember Dickinson.
No.
Councilmember Jorstad.
No.
Councilmember Ewing.
Aye.
Councilmember Tappett.
Aye.
Passes 5-2.
Great. Seeing that, Mayor, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to you to follow procedure. And just to let you know, that's the last thing. Now we have public comment.
Excellent. Appreciate the vote. We'll move to citizens' comments, and we'll do citizens' comments as we did in the beginning of the agenda. I'll give you 3 minutes to have comments. And if you want to raise your hand or say your name out loud, I'll recognize you and give you 3 minutes. We ask that you provide your first name or your name and your address. And I think that we have actually Representative Lovick who wishes to provide comments. I'm not sure what number you are, Representative Lovick. Are you 0306? Maybe we don't have Representative Lovick anymore. Okay, with that, I'll open up any other citizens' comments for tonight.
Well, I raised my hand. This is Stephanie.
Okay, Stephanie, go ahead.
So
You set. Hold on a second, Stephanie.
She's muted.
okay, how about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, Stephanie. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So I'm just disappointed. I know that people were, especially in the community, were watching the agenda to see if this vote for full full-time mayor was going to go up. We were told that it wasn't going to go up for a vote, and then it just slid off the agenda last minute. And I don't think for a minute that, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Ewing, is that his name? I don't think for a minute that he knew it wasn't coming on last minute. I mean, that's not transparency. That's not representative of being responsible with taxpayers' dollars. It's just like passing something in the midst of the night without giving people any notice. I haven't seen any, I think, reasonable justification for how this full-time mayor position is going to be creating some type of cost benefit for our city. And if the mayor signed up for this position part-time, and that was the platform he ran on and agreed to, then I don't get why passing it in the midst of a pandemic where people are getting laid off, where future budgets are going to be strained, why it makes any sense to go forward and fully fund a mayor position. If you don't have the skills and the capacity to do it in the agreed to terms, why switch in the midst of your term? I just think that's really deceptive and disappointing. And it's making people are going to see what's going on and they're not going to put up with it. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, Stephanie and Earl Grey.
Hello, council and mayor. I had spoken about this, the mayor position previously, and there were comments that came in afterward that seemed to be pointed at me about it being personal. I wanted to say, first of all, this is not personal. What happened was we voted on a mayor, and I remember being at the forum and talking about the shoes to fill in Mayor Spencer. And I remember both candidates saying that they could do it. And now 7-8 months in, now all of a sudden we can't, and we need to have a full-time job. So that's part of it. The other part is, again, it's about transparency. We're talking about we keep talking a lot about 33,000 people. And I've seen twice now where a lot of people have given input and it's completely discounted because of some phantom input that didn't arrive. And we're talking about 33,000 people that didn't show up and discounting the people that did as if they don't count and there is some phantom out there. Well, I can tell you the people that I talk to, and I don't doubt that they're probably maybe a different crowd than some people, but the people I've talked to are very much against both resolutions that happened tonight. And again, what's interesting to me is that all the people that I heard tonight and all the people that I talked to are 100% behind, as an example, Lake Stevens Police Department. Everyone. There are things we all agree on. And we could do that, but that's not what we're doing. And I think it's disrespectful to discount the people that take the time to show up or even write. I mean, I don't know why anybody would be afraid to write, but apparently they are. But it's disrespectful to discount the people that do. Thank you.
Okay, and how about Jessica? Go ahead.
Hello? It's
Yes,
John.
hi. Oh,
Jessica, if you could hold one moment for me. Let's get Representative Levick in. If you
okay.
could just a second.
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you. Representative
Thank you,
Levick.
Mayor. Thank you. Am I being heard okay? My name is John Levick and I live in Mill Creek. So thanks for letting me speak. I've listened to 2 hours and 30 minutes tonight. So thank you. I hope, frankly, that my comments will add a little value to what your contract lobbyist, Doug Levy, said. By way of a brief background, I served 5 years on the Mill Creek Library Board And I absolutely, and I mean this when I say this, I absolutely love libraries. In January, Snow Owl Library trustee Paul Ryan, executive director Lois Thompson, and Susan Hempstead from Snow Owl came to my office in Olympia looking for funding for an early learning focused library in Lake Stevens. Unfortunately, during that time, we were in the short session. We were told that there would be no new money in the capital budget for new projects. And I got several calls from Snow Owl during the session asking for money for the project. And I was told again and again and again that there was no new money, none. I pretty much decided to kind of throw in the towel, and I got one last call from Susan Hempstead as the budget was being negotiated with the Senate and just prior to coming up to a vote on the House floor. So I felt it was my obligation that I would talk to the chairman one more time and ask for some money. And I spoke with the chairman of the committee, the Capital Budget Committee, Chairman Steve Theringer, and I said, is there any way we could get something for Snow Owl? And he was under a lot of pressure, being pulled in a lot of different directions. We were looking at getting out of Olympia pretty soon. 5 minutes later, he walked up to me and he asked if we could use $250,000 for the library project. And of course, I said, yes, we can. I called Susan Hempstead, and as expected, she was very excited that we would get money in the budget. Unfortunately, we both had to sit and wait a long time until the governor finally signed the budget. Even though we only got a small amount, $250,000 in the budget, it was because members of your community, your city staff, your city council, your contract lobbyists, and Snow Owl are held in such high esteem. And when I say high esteem, I mean high esteem in the legislature. When your staff briefs the legislature, myself included, they are always so clear, and we really appreciate the great work that they bring to us as they present things to us. I said all of that to say this. I hope you will have a serious discussion with Snow Owl Library Board and with Snow Owl and the Library Board before moving forward with transforming the police station into a library. There are a lot of wonderful opportunities I think you're going to have. And I would just simply say, please have a long discussion. You listen to what Shaylin said and what Melissa said. This is time for a serious discussion before moving forward with transforming the station. That's all I have. Have a good evening. I've enjoyed listening to you guys tonight. Keep up the good work. Like I said earlier, your staff, the members of your community, and your contract lobbyists are held in high esteem in our state legislature. Thank you very much.
Representative Levick, thank you for your words, and we will have that discussion, and we appreciate your support here in Lake Stevens, absolutely. Jessica, you have the floor.
Jessica, you're muted.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. In regards to the full-time mayor position, I guess what I have to say is that I'm pretty deeply disappointed that that is something that, just to piggyback off of what Stephanie was mentioning, it was not a part of the original agenda. Had it been so, there might be more representation from the community currently to talk about it and to express how they feel about it, whether it be for it or against it. I cannot figure out in the midst of a pandemic where exactly that money is going to be coming from. It would be great if that was actually something that was visual to the community to be able to have insight on what exactly that looks like. It does come across as extremely self-serving. That's not the position that was originally put forth. And honestly, I do have to wonder how many other people would have been interested in going for the mayor position had they known it would have been a full-time position. It's extremely concerning more than anything that this council has so blatantly disregarded its community and its voice. And I can personally tell you that in working with the section that I'm working with Lake Stevens Allies for BIPAC, that's going to have to come to an end. You guys are going to have to start listening to your community, because at the end of the day, that is exactly who you serve. And that is exactly who you should be listening to. And I don't want to hear about how there's so many people out there that are silenced and not talking and whatnot. I think that that's been a real comfortable position for everybody on this council. So personally, I can tell you that I'm going to do my darndest with as many people as I possibly can to ensure that every single council meeting going forward, that it is not something that you can put out of your mind, that you serve the community and our voices take precedence. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Jessica. And Jeannie, go ahead.
I would just like to express that we are at a crossroads here. The full-time mayor position has been brought up before, and it has had the can kicked down the road multiple times. So it's not like it's never come up. And our city is large, and to expect, and yes, they both ran for the part-time position, but you're really excluding people in the ability to run for mayor if it's not a full-time position. But at the same time, we are a large city, and to expect part-time employment for a full-time position is not right. I know John Spencer. He is a friend of our family's. He worked so many hours as mayor, and he was retired. He could do that. He could provide that time. But our community is worthy of a full-time mayor. We've got so much going on, and especially in a pandemic, we have to have leadership that can take us to the next level. And I just really believe it's important, and I think it's now. And if the current mayor doesn't do a good job, he'll get voted out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Let's go with Lauren.
Hi, I just wanted to chime in with, while Council Member Tangent said that yes, this went absolutely procedurally, the optics of how this vote came about tonight is ugly. Whether you agree or not procedurally, and it was done by the book procedurally, it comes across as self-serving and disgusting. So that is the thing that I get to say tonight, because the vote has already been taken and we can't chime in anymore. This was gross, and I'm very disappointed.
Mayor, you're muted.
Kristen, go ahead.
Thank you. Again, disappointed. It was procedurally correct. It is not cool. It's late. And as you've all expressed, you weren't willing to allow community members to speak before the vote. And you were upset that it was going past 9, clearly upset that it was going past 9, but you had the time to take that vote on the full-time mayor position. I'm really disappointed to how little the majority of the council seems to listen to people's input. If it were for a lifetime of participating in civics, I would really be walking away with the impression that taking the time to write, to speak, to pay attention and read an agenda, to listen to what people have to say, in the end, it doesn't matter to my elected officials, apparently. So I'm going to have a nice conversation with my children who have been watching and hope that they don't walk away with that message. But that is what the majority of you have done here tonight.
Okay, and Helen.
Thank you. I just want to address a couple points. First, Councilmember Peter Sagan, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. You said earlier that you didn't hear any comments on how the resolution supporting law enforcement could be changed. And my only thought is you weren't listening. I and many other people said very clearly that it would be much improved by including people of color and their voice in improvements that could be made. And it's okay, because this is the kind of dismissive reaction that I've received much of my life. But I would hope that we are evolving, and I hope that you are paying attention during the DEI training, along with Councilmember Daughtry, who stated that there's nothing left for him to learn. I hope that you are both aware that your comments came off as incredibly painful to myself, to other members of the BIPOC community when they find out about this. I just want you to know that this is incredibly dismissive and hurtful. Regarding the full-time mayor position, don't really have a dog in this fight. I think it was a little bit strange how it came about, but I think that full-time work should be compensated. I think, as Jeannie mentioned, we would expect a commensurate return on investment. So look forward to seeing the significant gains that the mayor has already provided for the city to be doubled or more, and looking forward to seeing that. I think it's also reasonable to ask for a public record of timesheets and how his time is spent, similar to how other taxpayer positions are managed. And I look forward to seeing the process and procedural manuals that allow us to maintain accountability for our taxpayer dollars.
Thank you, Ellen. Do I have any other comments? I'm not seeing any hands. Any other comments? I got a Lindsay iPhone. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Lindsay, and I've lived in Lake Stevens for a little over a year. I'm not the best at public speaking, but I do want to use my voice. I'm in a place of privilege as a white woman, and it's just not fair. It was very dismissive tonight. It was really ugly to vote for something, even though you didn't want to go past 9, and then to not let us speak our minds and our voice and raise the voices of people that don't feel safe, don't feel like they trust the city council. And I just feel like I want to echo Stephanie and Jessica and Helen and Angie and Councilmember Mary. You're going to hear more. We're not going away. So I'm disappointed, and you'll be hearing from me, and I'm part of the BIPOC Allies group, so you'll be hearing from us as well. Thanks.
Great, Lindsay. And any other comments? I got a Carrie waving hands. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi. I just wanted to make one very quick comment. As a college graduate in public relations with an emphasis in crisis communication, I have to ask council and the mayor, how are you getting information out to your publics? That includes all your publics. Are you including in your publics those who are not web enabled? Because I'm extremely web enabled. I understand the internet. I know where to look for things. But if this were my grandmother, she would have no idea, but she's interested. So how are we making sure that our senior citizens are getting the information out about council meetings, about council business? Are you taking advertisements out in the local community? Do you have a public billboard? I understand that COVID has changed the rules and changed the game, but that just means that you have to grow and adapt and change. Is there a giant billboard that would be able to be seen, something public that's light and flashy and in somewhere where most people are going to be, so that there's a vast majority of people can see it? Being able to get the information out to all of your publics and not just those who are extremely good with the Google and the internet would go a long way to making sure that not just the 15, 20, maybe 50 people attend your Zoom meetings, but also get into and cut into maybe some of that 30,000 people. So thank you.
Hey, Carrie, great points. I would love an email from you. That's an area that I work on, is how do I get to my elderly folks and get their information? And some of the things you brought up, we are actually working on. So I'd love an email from you with some ideas.
I'd like to say something.
You got iPad. Oh, Sue, go ahead.
This is Sue Fernald, Lake Stevens. I wasn't going to talk, and Carrie just hit a very point of mine. 3 of the council people ran in the last election with the understanding that communication would be the #1 thing. I have yet to receive a letter. I've yet to see a billboard. I am a senior. I live in a senior development. There's 100 units, over 80 of them do not have email. They do not know what Facebook is. How are you going to come up with an idea? And I've given some ideas to get to those people and the families that are trying their best to get their kids in school, and they don't have time to get on Facebook. And someone here said tonight that council and the mayor are not listening to the people talking. I heard everyone, but there's 40 people. There's 30,000 people in this city. You need to reach to them. Mayor Gailey did a forum a few weeks ago through one of the clubs. It was very informative. It was open discussion. So when someone says you're not hearing them and 40 people dialed in because they've been called or they've seen on Facebook today, there's a meeting, you're not reaching 30,000 people. And so the 3 people who ran, they need to step up and come up with an action to how you're going to reach out to the people that are not techie or who don't have time to check their emails. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I'm not seeing any other hands risen.
Mayor Gailey, may I just one time chime in? I like to be quick.
I know you do, Melissa. Go ahead.
I appreciate all the time you guys are taking, and I appreciate the fact that you're 47 minutes over 9 o'clock. I am confident you're going to hear these concerns, and you guys are going to do what needs to be done to address these concerns. And I really hope that our community appreciates you guys taking this extra time out of your day to hear us. There's really not much more I want to say aside from that, but please take your time to hear your community and take action on that. That's what we really need. We just need you guys to hear us. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And with that, I don't see any other hands up. And I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, thank you for a great city council evening, and make sure that we are safe out there. Take care of each other, and if you can find an opportunity to serve in your community, make it happen. Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.